So, today I have with me Becki and Shaun Smith of Smith Dungeon, hobby, toy, and collectibles shop, where your hobby is our business. Did I get that right?
You did.
All right, good, 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 good. But you all are recently opened here in Grayson, Kentucky, and you all have D&D, Warhammer, minis, Magic the Gathering, Pathfinder, Pokemon plushies, anime, paint, merch, and not to mention the Dragon Queen herself, Tiamat, on display.
Mhm.
That made me incredibly excited, especially with the release of some books. As of here late, that does make me really excited. So yeah, we'll just
Yeah.
get. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. We have two actually. One might end up coming home with us eventually, but
Yeah, it's they are incredibly hard to come by. I've only seen that. Well, I call it a miniature, but it's huge. Uh, at one other store, and I think it was at the Rusty Scabbard. I think is where I seen it there in Lexington. It's the other place I seen it. But I was really taken back. But just the size of the box alone, I was like, that is unreal. And something of that magnitude definitely deserves. There's a since it's already pre-painted, right?
No, not that one.
Not that one.
Yeah, that one's a bronze so that people like Becky, who likes to paint, has the chance to be able to sit and paint them. And yeah,
I do. I like to
she likes
paint as
to
well. I'm
paint.
not very good at it, but I like to dabble here and there. If I get down to like doing the eyes or something, I usually call my wife and have her. It's like, hey, I'm terrible. Please help me, and she's more than gracious enough to help me out most of the time.
Yeah, she's the painter. She sits and will get the most unbelievable detail out of these miniatures when she paints that I can't even approach. So
Yes, some people are
I do a
incredibly
lot of
talented.
I slap paint. That's basically it.
Now, I do like
uh,
building set pieces and stuff. I'm a little more drawn to that than I am actually painting the minis. But there's something about setting a scene and having it come to life before you and the players and everything. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with the dry erase or just a standard grid or anything like that. But I like to really immerse my players into what I envision and their interpretation of what I see.
Yeah, I like to. We used to play without miniatures at all. We just sat around on the couch, and in the floor and whatever, and just make it all up as we went. We wasn't worried about distance. They would just ask, "Can I hit it?"
Yeah,
Yeah, you can hit it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of times
kind
theater
of
of the mind works
appreciated
out great.
play.
yeah. Just imagination. Just enough imagination to be able to do anything is great. You don't really need all the distances, all the stuff.
Hmm.
But if you need this stuff or want the stuff, it's all there.
Yeah.
Or we can get a lot of things too. We've already been taking several special orders on different things. Um, so we have several distributors, and
Awesome.
we're also always taking suggestions on things that we don't carry in the store, um, because we know everybody kind of likes some similar things, but some different things that may be a certain series or whatever.
Yeah.
So we try to get things like that in for people as well.
And that's really
But
good. Like,
and speaking,
go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I think it's really important too. Like, you all are taking your customers' feedback and everything, and I think you all are going to do great. I really do. And
Thank you.
it really warms my heart to see someplace so close to myself. It's going to save me an hour long trip somewhere just to go pick up a mini for a session that I'm running, or heaven forbid I have to order something off Etsy and pray that it gets here whenever it says it's supposed to be here.
Right. And that was our main goal. I mean, we always kind of joked for years about opening a store.
Mhm.
Like I don't know, like maybe when we retired or just in general, just like a I don't know, a silly dream or whatever. But um I'm a Gemini, and I've been known to just do spontaneous things. And
So now we have a store.
Yeah. Well, see, I mean, that's great. Sometimes it just, like this whole podcast thing that I'm doing, I'm like, well, how am I going to get started? Or how am I going to get people to watch it? Or, get people involved? And, I believe if you're really passionate about something, that people can see that and they tend to gravitate towards it. And I think that is such an important part, and especially with you all. If someone's looking for something in particular, you all don't hesitate to go out and grab that for somebody, and that means a lot. It means a lot, especially here locally. Because a lot of times people will buy the stuff and it's like, well, this is what we have. Here you go, have at it. Yeah.
yeah, that was our goal too. I mean, we love all of our local hobby shops, but
Hmm.
we thought it would be cool to have somewhere, like you said, that you don't have to drive like 30 minutes to an hour away to get some things. And also we have young children that's into those kinds of things. And um, we hobby too. And gosh, I don't even know, we probably have close to 1,000 or more miniatures ourselves. So
Yeah. And,
it's just cool to have that in town. And we try to carry a few different things that other places don't carry, just
hmm
so we're not stealing business from anybody or anything like that. Some things are the same, but
right.
um, we have a jewelry section. And I don't think I've seen that in a hobby or collectible shop yet, but we carry a lot of celestial stuff. And we also have some Viking um, based jewelry. We have uh, some horror movie jewelry and Nightmare Before Christmas jewelry and anime jewelry and stuff like that, that still kind of ties back into the whole geek chic
Yeah.
kind of, you know.
It's
Right,
great.
the new hobby.
Now,
Yeah, all this stuff we're bringing in, finding a lot of new hobbies. So I've just recently learned how to play Magic, just so I'd know enough about it to be able to talk about it at the store. And then I reckon I'm gonna learn how to play Pokemon. I
there you
may
go.
fall in love with it like I fall in love with Magic. Same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, and other board games and things like that that I've not ever played. I'm getting to walk into other people's hobbies and finding other things I really like too.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about the bring taking on new things, as far as like you might find new things that you enjoy, because we're all, I guess, quote unquote geeks, and we all like the whole genre as a whole. You know, and not
Mm-hmm.
to mention it brings everyone together. We're not, you know, nothing wrong
Oh,
against like
yeah.
virtual tabletop or anything like that. If that's what you do, then that's great. If that's the way, it's easier for people to get together and all that. But like people getting together and really sitting around the table, having a discussion, telling a story, I think that's where this hobby really shines. And no matter what genre that you pick up, whether it's Warhammer, D&D, Pathfinder, whatever it may be, Vampire the Masquerade, you know, everyone has their own little niche thing that they like, and to be able to share it with other people, it's great. It's a
Oh,
great thing.
yeah. Well, and that being said, so yeah, so we've met a lot of great people since we've opened the store. We've had like the same group of people for about 10 years that we play Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or Werewolf or Cthulhu, things like that with. Some have come and some have gone, but most generally it's most of the same people. But, people get sick, people have jobs, people have kids, life happens. So there's times that we don't get together with people. And Shaun's our primary DM, and he likes to play as well. So we've had a few people try DMing, and that was good. He got to play a little bit, but he's always been our primary. But we've met people in the same situation that can't always get a group together, or we've met people that have just started playing and want to
Mm-hmm.
learn more about it. Or probably the coolest thing that warms my heart is we're getting like little kids in the store, like probably from age 8 to 14, coming in buying things because they want to learn how to play tabletop RPGs. And a lot of those kids come from, there's a local lawyer here in town. um, and he has a little guild thing that he does at the Grayson Library. I believe it's every Wednesday. His name is John Thompson, and he's done it for a couple of years. But he has school age children come in there, and he's been teaching them how to play tabletop games. So they've kind of got a little, a little.
It's not
Yeah.
just the kids though. I meet people that are older than me that want to play, want to, have just never found where they can get their foot through the door to see what's going on. So I've talked to enough of those that once we start running a few games in the store, we're going to have some basic games where they can come in and sit down, and I'll just take them through some starting stuff just to see if it's something they like and put them
Yeah.
in contact with other people that play.
Yeah. And that's great, man. It's such a, you're really cultivating a community, and it's. I think it's gonna do phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
A lot of
Cannot
people,
wait.
a lot of people really want to play, and they just don't know how to get in contact with people to
Yeah.
make it happen.
And that
Yeah,
was.
we have.
Go ahead.
We've just been seeing a lot of people coming out of the cracks and the shadows, like all ages, little kids, boys, girls, women, men. We've met just all kinds of people, just in general, over different hobbies and interests, coming in and talking to us and looking for items and things like that.
Yeah, you all have quite the selection too. Uh, I was really impressed. The few times that I've been in there, it's really you all have a lot.
Well, thank you. We try to think of like the things that we like, what our kids like,
Mhm.
and then we have a suggestion list right at our register. What would you like to see in the dungeon? You were talking about the anime section when we very first opened, which was only 4 weeks ago. We had no anime anything. That's not really anything that either of us know a lot about.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, we've seen some different shows and stuff like that, but not enough to know like what kind of merch people would like, or who's the coolest character in
Yeah,
this series or whatever. But now we have an entire shelf is nothing but anime.
yeah, and
So we're listening to the people.
I think that's what that takes too. You just gotta be willing to go the extra mile for people, and especially in our town, that goes a long way. It carries a lot of weight. Being very personable to people and everything, and taking a liking to their interests and everything, and kind of supplying them a place where they can go to get these things is, you know, got to be well received. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm doing a crash course in several things. I've started watching animes just so I got some knowledge in that. I've learned how to play Magic, which is now turning into an addiction. Because I can't help but buy cards and build decks all the time, and
Right.
Same.
so I'm trying to get where I know at least enough to be able to converse about most of these subjects at this point.
Now we have
Yeah.
more expensive hobbies.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
That's
okay.
yeah, and it kind of brings me to my next point. When did you all start playing tabletop games and everything? What initially drew you all to initially playing D&D together?
I'll let you answer that first.
well, I took to reading. I liked to read when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I liked to read when I was younger, so I got into like the Odyssey when I was in elementary school, stuff in the library. I would just find it, read it, stuff like that. Then I found out that I could play games similar to that and came across a game called Hero Quest. Very basic form of getting together with people, putting basically miniatures on the table and running through adventures. And then heard about Dungeons and Dragons, started buying into some of that stuff, and finally found somebody that was. I played D&D and didn't play it right. We'll say I'd done whatever to make it happen, and then I ran into other people that knew how to play, and from then I've not stopped. And it's been I was 10 at the time, so about 34 years ago, and I've
Nice.
been playing some form of D&D since second edition. Uh, I done all the second edition, third edition, 3.5. Won't even talk about four. Then some Pathfinder right in there, and then jump back into D&D at five,
Yeah.
and have been, and then throw in the World of Darkness with the werewolf, the vampire, the hunter, stuff like that, and with a smidge of Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu, added into that here and there. Yeah.
And for me, let's see, when I was a teenager, I was a mall rat, and I had different friends from just kind of all over the surrounding counties, and um, a lot of them played Dungeons and Dragons. At that point, I'd never really heard about any of the other tabletop games, but when we would go to their houses and stuff, they'd be playing, and I always thought, oh, that looks cool, and
Yeah.
I'd hear them making the voices, and I'm like, oh, that looks so fun, but I didn't really understand the rules. I am not a reader, so I am a show me, let me do it, and that's how I learn kind of person, more of a visual. But then I didn't really see or hear or hang out with anybody for a while that did it, played any kind of tabletop games. And then, um, I don't know, a couple years later in high school, I had some friends that played. Um, and then after high school, me and Shaun was friends in school, and then we went our separate ways, and then we got back together with the same mutual group of friends, and we used to play like 15, 20 years ago together.
Yeah.
And then, anyway, a few years later, we ended up getting married, and his hobbies kind of turned into my hobby, and it's just branched out, and he's kind of passed a lot of that on to our two kids. We actually have that Hero Quest game, and we've got two boys, and they make us run it for them all the time.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm working on turning my 10-year-old into a magic. He's made me play magic with him every evening this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're learning to get them together.
Yeah. And the boys, our boys are 6 and 10, and a lot of the stuff we have in our store actually comes from them too. Um, because we know, like, Mom, Dad, I want this for Christmas, or I want this for my birthday, or they'll watch some kind of video or YouTube thing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then it blows up and it's huge, and then I'll hear like one of their friends talking about it and stuff like that, and so that's where we like get the ideas for a lot of our plushies. We have a huge plushie selection, so we've got some YouTube toys, stuff like that you can't find at Walmart, or you could
Yeah.
probably get some of them on Amazon, but anyway, so it's a family effort. It's a
Yeah.
community effort. Like I said, we take input from everybody. So
Well, I think what y'all are doing is absolutely phenomenal, and just a huge inspiration to myself. For going out there, and you all are doing what you love and love what you're doing, and making me want to do better for myself as well.
oh, that's awesome to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
So we appreciate it. We're doing well so far. Hopefully, it wasn't just because of Christmas. I mean, we get a lot of positive feedback from people every day. We have people coming in there like super excited. Um, so hopefully, I mean, we'll see how this year goes. If this year goes well, where we're at right now, we're just leasing. If this year goes well, we'll probably eventually get some commercial property and actually build a much bigger store.
yeah, there you
Um,
go.
but we have to see how everything goes.
Well, I have no doubt
Very
it's gonna go well. It's gonna go well.
Well, thank you.
Um, I guess let me think here. Oh, well, since you all been playing for a while, how do you all go about creating your sessions uh, with the minis, and crafting materials, and what kind of timeline or amount of time do you put into creating a session for like your primary group?
This guy has an imagination like nobody I've ever met in my life. He should write novels. And I mean, he can just improv anything at any time. I mean, I'm just going to say, I've seen him like take weeks to plan stuff, and then I've seen him literally take an hour or two and us have the coolest campaign fun night ever just because of his imagination and personality. But
Yeah.
as far as the planning stuff goes, the only thing I ever do is he might have like throw in some of the miniatures or something that I've painted, but all that's this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
I've always
important.
worried. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was just saying it's a really really important skill to have as a DM, being able to ad lib and improv there on the spot because my players are kind of chaotic. I know I've beaten a dead horse here on the podcast talking about them guys, but yeah, I'm talking about you all. That I can have this extravagant thing planned for them to experience, and then
They
without
shatter it.
yeah, pretty much. Every time, or I'll fail to read their spell list, and they'll have some sort of cantrip in there, like command monster, or something like that, and then it's like, oh well, okay, and there we go. There's a week's worth of planning down the drain. But I don't like to railroad my players. I like to give them some amnesty and let them have, feel like they have sandbox. I don't want to enclose them into like one little particular area because no one like it's important like if you're trying to like build a story with it, but I don't think that it's something that's like, well, I want to see what's down that dark alley over there. Well, no, you can't do that because this is happening over here. I've never done that. And how do you deal with like players and stuff foiling your plans, so to speak?
My favorite thing is to always let them think that they're foiling my plans. Because at this point, I've played, and I don't want to say I'm ready for all situations, but the best thing that I could always say is that it always let them feel like they're getting the better of me. Because some plans I will set and plan for a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have things and I have it in my head how I want the story to run. But there's been nights where I've simply wrote two sentences down on a piece of paper and just went with what the party was doing.
Yeah.
And it's just as much fun, especially where I run almost all the time. It's just as much fun for me to react to what they're doing. It's almost like finally getting to play because I get to play off of that.
I see.
Because we all know the thrills, we all know the monsters. I can throw in what I need to make things exciting, and
Mm-hmm.
even some of the best nights don't even involve anything but just simply role playing, just a back and forth and,
Shenanigans.
and goofiness. If I
Yeah.
can bring tears to people's eyes through laughing that night, I've succeeded, and everybody's good with it.
Yeah.
So it's all about having fun and getting away from life. So if I can do that, it don't matter how much I've prepped or how much I've not prepped, or if they derailed everything, just so we all come away feeling good and happy about what happened.
Yeah.
I really ain't that concerned about it.
Yeah, and I agree. There's nothing better than having a character with a hilarious name. That the character, they're constantly having to reference this person with this absurd name, something like that. And every time the dude just brings the table down.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I like to do, which has worked out better than anything, is just for one shots. I will sit down and pre-make characters,
Mm-hmm.
where I won't even pre-make the character, but I will tell the players that this is your race, this is your class, and this is your name. And I get really specific with the name, something really off the wall,
Okay.
and let them take that name and flavor that character. And I've got more response out of people role playing that into they start playing to that. They sound like that. Their mannerisms will change just because they know it's a goofy one shot, and they fall 100% into the character. And that's been some of the best role playing nights we've ever had.
Yeah, that's something I've never done. We kind of did like I did like a reversal sort of thing, and I had them create characters, quote unquote characters, pulled from the monster manual for them to play as, and I would create some adventurers to come in and let them set up their base and everything, and then bring those characters in, and I would play the three PCs and try to take them out while they use like a boss monster or something like that. And that seems to work out pretty good too. They really seem to enjoy
That
that.
sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds really fun. Yeah, I like we always do rogue campaigns where
Mm-hmm.
it's a group of people. Even if they're not rogues, there's always a couple rogues involved. But even if it's priests, the priests are, leaning that way. Fighters or light armor, dex fighters, stuff like that. And I always give them the goofiest names just so that they can feel like, they're in this city doing this stuff. And yeah, I like taking people out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
A lot of people will play the same character all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do that, I just have them roll a dice or pick a number randomly, and I just hand them a random character, and that's that.
Yeah.
So they have to figure out how to play that from nowhere.
I used to be guilty of that.
Hmm. Yeah,
And you know,
yeah. I like seeing people leave their comfort zone when they play.
yeah, I have a hard time getting my characters, well, I say characters, but my players to role play. Like, they're just as happy if I put them in a social situation as they are if I was to throw them in, like a randomly generated dungeon or something like that. Like, they like to kill the mayor, kill the bad guys, all that fun stuff. But, I wouldn't necessarily go out and call them murder hobos or anything like that. But they are very, very in tune with the getting the job done sort of thing by any
When
means necessary.
with my dedicated group, there's nights I can sit down and I can get a read of the table, the
Mm-hmm.
people that's there. And I can tell it's the kind of night where everybody just wants to beat something up. They just want to fight. That's what they're going to do. So any attempt to role play or do anything without destroying the city or anything that gets in their way, it's just not going to happen. So we fight.
Yeah.
And some nights you can tell everybody's just kind of laid back and wanting to just have a fun, goofy time. That's usually the nights the role playing will happen. And I'm gonna say about 90% of the time, I can get a read on the party to kind of tell when we sit down when we very first get together. Because I've had to scrap entire nights because I'll be expecting one and it's going to go the other way, and it's not even worth attempting to go the other. So
We played a few of the ones out of the book too, like that Charlotte and
yeah, we've been playing some of the settings out of all of the adventure paths or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
for the different games, which are kind of fun, but at the same time, I feel like they get a little restrictive. But it's fun to play in the core, the stuff that makes the names. You know, I have, I have a guy on my arm from one of the books, stuff like that. So you've got to get into the guys that the big names in each one of these game settings. You've got to get into that occasionally,
Yeah.
to feel like you've been there, done that. But I enjoy playing homebrew kind of stuff. That way you're not stepping on no toes. You just kind of,
that was a
Right.
good door though to open up. Our nephew ran a campaign for a while so that Shaun could have a chance to actually play for a bit, and that was a good way to kind of introduce him into DMing.
Yeah.
yeah, I think everybody should DM at some point just to see what happens on the other side of the table.
I agree.
Amount of time and preparation, and it's stressful. It is stressful, and people might put their phones down a little bit more and pay a little more attention when somebody else is running
Right.
once they've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it is a major problem these days.
yeah, I'll have this crazy monologue prepped or something from Strahd, and I'll sit down. And it's like, all right, now that's done. How does your character respond to that? Uh, okay, yeah, let's go do the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
It's
the
always disheartening to hear when that happens. I hate when that happens, and it's engagement of players. Some nights, yeah, I think some nights they do want to hear it, and then
yeah,
some nights they just,
yeah.
yeah.
I try not to.
We got good players.
Okay.
I was just gonna say we got some really good players, some other longtime players that like if some of the other people and I've been guilty of it, squirreling off
Mm-hmm.
during a game. Um, they'll like stand up and kind of be like the team leader and kind of start talking and pushing like and trying to pull everybody back in and this is what we should do, or they'll step up and role play with the characters that the DM's thrown out there to try to rein everybody back in.
And that's what I'm scared of most of. Like if I'm running the game, I don't want the people at my table bored or like if they seem like they're not having a good time. I always try to keep it as interesting as possible because one person may like role play or social interaction. Someone just wants to go fight the dragon. Someone wants to, you know, dive into politics or go rob that old wizard or or something like that. But it's constantly feel as though I always want to do better. I always want my next session to be better than the last, and I've had a flop or two. I feel like that was a flop for me, but they I always try to take feedback from after the game's done. It's like, what'd you all think? What'd you like? What you didn't like? And take their suggestions and you know do better on the next run.
He's also started, I noticed, over the past year because we do have a few people that just recently started playing with us, maybe 3, 4 years ago, that get to come sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them had never played before, and they play, but sometimes they, don't know what to say or what to do because they might not understand some of the rules, or they're too shy to step up and role play, so they're just kind of tagging along with the party. But he's kind of got to where he'll call people out as their character, and like you said, what do you think about, like, he'll call them out, and
Yeah.
um, he'll he'll literally drag their character into the game if he sees them, swirling off or.
Sometimes people just need that push to be pulled in.
Yeah.
I used to I used to be like, I'm not really a quiet person, but I never really like could do the role playing and stuff like that because I thought, oh, I'm going to sound stupid or whatever. But now I make the goofy voices and
Oh, that's me. Like,
characters.
I usually will just throw myself in there head first and just see what kind of voice pops into my head at the time. And most of the time, it's either something from you know,
I love it.
Shrek or something like that, or World of Warcraft, or uh, you
And that's
know,
part of fun,
yeah,
you know. Our players enjoy it. He's had us rolling so many times before. Oh my gosh. He really gets into his characters that he creates.
They pay attention when I'm doing it. So
hey, if it's working, it's
no
working,
hidden
right?
secret. Hmm.
So, what's your all's current setting right now? What, or I know you said like you mostly do homebrew and stuff, but do you have a particular campaign setting or anything that you've done in the past that you've really liked?
If I delve into anything, usually I jump into Forgotten Realms a little bit. That's about, yeah. And then that's just tentatively. I don't even go in real hard most of the times because I don't stay up on the lore as much as I used to. I
Mm-hmm.
used to read every book that came out, and I'm less so about that. So, because I always start feeling restricted when I run in a world. If somebody's read the current books, seen the current stuff, and they know more about it than I do, even though it's my world, I feel like I'm running over what their thought there might be of the world. So every once in a while, I will for a adventure or so, but that's about the extent of it. And that's one of the places I like to go back to because I read a lot of books and I like a lot of the characters from there.
Well, I was going to say you probably have quite the arsenal of story at your fingertips anyway. Just if you've read all the modules and everything like that, and used to read a lot whenever you was younger, then I'd say you probably have a good deal of inspiration you can draw from.
I I I know quite a bit about a great deal of the areas. Some of my favorite places and some of my favorite characters are actually from the books from the realms.
Yeah.
So it's real easy to fall back into all these, and that's one of the things that's even kicked me over into Magic was they done that D&D crossover.
Yeah.
So they're bringing a lot of those characters show up on cards and stuff, and I think it's really cool that I can dig in and pull these cards that are straight from that game, straight from those books.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah, that helped pull me in. Great. Yeah, I pulled Bruner, and I was so happy when I pulled Bruner out of the deck of cards. You know,
Yeah. I mean, to for me, I grew up. I watched. I hate to say it. Please don't hate me. I watched the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits movies, but I mostly grew up like reading Louis L'Amour, which is like cowboy western sort of style, and only up to here recently had I start uh, reading the Dragonlance books. And I have a good friend and author, Jack Atkins. He recently just released his second book, The Dragon, and I'm starting to build my small little arsenal of places and things and characters that I can draw out of a hat if I need them. But Dragonlance so far has been I'm on book 2 or 3. I'm not sure. I'm on the winners version of it, but the way how it is written, I can just sit there and be so engrossed in the story and be like, I can see these characters. I know what they're planning and how they feel or what that must have done to them. I would really like to be able to be that fluent with me being able to pull those stories out or those characters out and being able to put them at the table and to have my players see that and be just as engrossed as I am. I want them to feel like they're a real part of the story. And you're right. Maybe doing like a homebrew would be better because it would be more organic. Like you're not sitting there, you're not reading a script or like an excerpt. Like something in bold. It's like read this to the characters out loud. Sort of thing.
I really like those descriptions though, in a lot of them, because the last one I was running was had a lot of description text to it, and I really enjoyed it for the overall feel. I might fall short. I still have a lot of shortcomings I come across, and I notice it when I run a module that I'm forgetting to give as good a description of the area or the things going on. I focus more I always focus on combat because I believe every fight should be a Star Wars fight. So it
Mm-hmm.
needs to be a special because every fight in Star Wars that happens is in a special place where the terrain is just as important as the fight going on. That kind of stuff.
But
And
we actually hit stuff.
It's
but
important.
stuff like that, yeah. But I forget to describe areas as well as I should. But
Yeah.
when I play in like Cthulhu, I'm more about description, so I realize I forget that a lot when I with the D&D. And I do love me some Dragonlance. Those were the first novels I read throughout the
Oh,
entire.
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
I did all three of those. The Time of the Twins after, and then the later books after that. I've not read anything recent. I really enjoy those books. Tanis Half-Elf and
mm-hmm.
Sturm and all of them. It brings me back.
Yep.
No Tasseloff. I always
Yeah, Tasseloff.
like Tassel. Yeah. He's
Or
good for the laugh.
Fizban.
Fizbin, yeah.
I'll stay away from that one for the spoilers.
Yeah, yeah, there's quite a few in that. But I really enjoyed all of those books, and my early running days of D&D in general really took a lot from that because that was my basis in the fantasy worlds
Yeah.
was an actual structured fantasy world was my Dragonlance. I didn't read anything else until after, and then I've read Conan, H.P. Lovecraft,
Yeah.
with all of the Cthulhu stuff, the Martian, I have trouble with the names of it, but the whole John Carter on Mars books. I can't remember the names of all of them. It's like Thuvia Made of Mars, all these old books that were that kind of set the basis of what I have now.
Yeah.
And then I've read The Wheel of Time and other books like that more recently that brought in the politicking of what campaigns really kind of turn into now. So I like to think I've got a good hodgepodge of different
Yeah.
things to draw from at this point.
And
Yeah.
I'm dipping my toe now into like ship combat and stuff. You see like the little ship right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. I feel sort of clunky trying to run stuff like that. But do you have any experience with like mounted combat or anything like that? Any advice for that?
Um, we do the times we've done it's been very basic, very very basic, and normally it just comes. We've done a few things with a few miniatures, but at the end of the day, what we've usually done is just draw out the general shapes and just try to do the whole setting because I've never had a full size ship to mess with. I didn't even get one printed out to try to have one to size. I got a couple of poster boards from some old map boards actually that have a flying ship on it from I think I bought it back in the 80s, but it's a full size map that has
Oh,
a
that's
full
awesome.
size ship on it. Yeah, that I can use occasionally, stuff like that. But
You did print that one 3D
yeah,
tower that was leveled.
yeah. But as far as the mounted and the ships and stuff, I usually keep it where the characters control themselves and don't do a lot with the ship. We've never got into the point where they're actually controlling the ship and going and
Yeah.
taking control of it. Yeah, so I've never had to. I had one. I have a campaign on the shelf that will deal with ships and airborne ships and air combat plus underwater combat and
Yeah.
things like that. That I will need to learn the rules and figure out how to make it work, but I've not got quite to that point. It's just the idea of the game
They say that
currently.
Spelljammer's got some pretty good rules and stuff for ship combat and stuff, but I think it's mostly aerial stuff. Uh,
Yeah,
and Spelljammer can get a little, for lack of a better word, spelljammery. As far as
yeah,
the weirdness and but I love it all. Like big
yeah.
the mind flayer ships and everything. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I love mind flayers. Love to use them.
Mm.
Um, and I did on Hero Forge there a couple nights ago. I made some Draconians, so I'm pretty happy to go and have those printed, and I'm just gonna have dozens of them made.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
I always liked the Draconians. That was something I vaguely used in my a lot of my homebrew stuff, just because of the menacing nature of them.
yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of like the new. Well, I say new race in Dragonlance, but the Kinder, like just their general nature. They're not scared of anything. They're curious and they tend to take things that don't necessarily belong to them.
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, I always did like the Kingdom. Yeah. There's one setting I keep hoping that they will come back to at some point that they've not touched on in a while was the whole planescape setting.
hmm,
I was a huge fan of the planescape setting and the ideas of that entire multiverse
yeah. So is it
of different things.
similar to like the domains of dread or something like that? I'm sorry, I don't think I'm familiar with it.
Planescape was a big thing in the second edition. Um, saw some playing your stuff in third edition, but in the second edition, so the center of the known universe is a sigil, or a city called Sigil that is a circular ring shape, and from there, all the planes of existence branch out to where all the deities, the hells, everything is at, and you could actually. They call it the city of many doors. So at any point, even in a material plane, if that door was triggered, you would open that door and you could walk out to any other plane in the known multiverse.
Oh wow.
And if that happened, and you wasn't a powerful caster, and even if you was a powerful caster, trying to find your way back or learn how to navigate,
Sounds a lot like Midgard.
trying to navigate your way around and make your way back. And the only safe place in the center of it all was Sigil, because none of the wars, none of the demons, angels, none of that held sway there. It was just a neutral area that was controlled by a all-powerful being called the Lady of Pain that basically kept everybody else out that tried to impose their will on the place.
Yeah.
So it was a very dark and twisted and weird. It was very odd and very quirky. And it was out. It felt like it was outside of D&D, but it ran off of all its rules,
Yeah.
and it was different. Yeah, I've often thought about trying to convert it in the fifth edition, but it would be a handful.
Now they say that a lot of the older editions were real heavy on like calculating and math and everything. Can you attest to that?
I will never do Thaco again, or Thaco, or whatever they call it. To hit armor class 0, I don't feel like having to do math equations to figure out if I got to hit something or not. Yeah, and armor class went down, so you could get into -1, 2, 3 armor class. I think
Oh.
the best I ever had was a -4. So you use that to hit, and I don't even remember it at this point. I've kind of tried to block it out completely at this point. So best thing ever was third edition, where you just roll a dice, add numbers to it. It's beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it, and I will stay that way from now on. Yeah, but I did like the settings. The math was a little crunchier back then, but I did love how they expanded the deepness of the settings that they really pushed.
That's what I've heard. That it was really, really intensive as far as like trying to calculate everything and uh,
Yeah,
hard. Not the best at math anyway. Someone puts a computer in front of me and it's like, "Hey, build this." I'm like, "Okay, I can do that." But
yeah.
trigonometry, not this guy. No, can't do it. But so whenever you all are having your sessions and stuff, do you do anything for music or atmosphere? Any special lighting or anything like that?
Um, I started playing some music because the last setting I was in was jungle, so I had some jungle sounds playing on a Bluetooth in the back, and then I would bring up. If I was in a fight with goblins, I'd bring up on a handheld in front of me the sounds of combat, stuff like that. But at a point where I tried to keep it as low as possible to not,
Yeah.
interfere. But when
I'm
I did Cthulhu, I like to run in the 1920s and would find 1920s music to play in the background. I decorated the tables with tablecloths and different things and I was a very prop oriented with it. So if they found something, I would have a prop of it to actually be able to hand,
yeah.
because that's more of a,
You actually wore one of your costumes
yeah. I
at one time too.
dressed as one of the guys that was telling the story in the
Something like that.
story. There we go.
There we go. I've been looking at different things for like the dragon orb. So I don't know if my wife will necessarily let me buy like a 24-inch circumference sphere to put on the table for him, but you know, I can dream. Yeah, props are important. I'm subscribed to Loot Studios, um, and they, uh, yeah, I think it's is it Loot. It may just be called Loot now, but they have STLs every month that they send out, and they will always, usually with the module and stuff, give a prop that you can print that's central to the story, and they actually have something they can hold. Like one of them was a compass with a skull on it and everything. There was a sword that you could print. You know, some very like some relics and things like that. I thought that was pretty cool. Little bit more immersion to it, instead of like you're trying to imagine it or like see a visual representation of it. You can hold the thing, like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, yeah. It's always great when you can lay hands on something to. Yeah, I run a lot of puzzles and different things in the Cthulhu thing, so that I like to be able to add in pieces. And if it's say it's a dagger in a sheath, if there's a note in it, I will shove it down in the sheath so that they can find it, and I'll write it out in that. And uh, I'm lucky that we are pack rats, and I have been into this for so long because my house is full of little oddities. So sometimes I will just simply veer my stories to be able to incorporate something that I have laying around the house, because we got a great deal of small little knick-knacky things
Yeah.
that fit the bill on in a lot of instances.
And I haven't got much of a chance to use traps or puzzles or anything like that, but I got this book over the holidays. I don't know if you've seen this. Uh,
Mm.
Traps, Puzzles, and
Seen
Dungeons.
it on you.
And this
Yeah.
thing is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And can't wait to start using some of those things. Makes me a little worried because I feel like if I kill someone with a trap, feels like I've kind of cheated them a little bit. But I've never had a TPK yet. Never.
Mm.
And it makes me nervous. Have you ever wiped a party?
I have wiped a couple parties. The only way that the games got to continue was everyone was not there that night. So all the players returned the following week, and um, because of that, this one person that wasn't there, they came back. We continued the story, but he had to recruit the whole rest of the party in a different, yeah, because
Start over.
That's
yeah,
cool.
it was, yeah. But if everybody had been here, I'm not above it. If it turns that way, it turns that way. In a lot of instances, I don't aim for it by no means.
But he did create a character graveyard, and every time somebody would kill somebody, he would take our player cards, which we don't really use anymore because we use D&D Beyond now, but we used to have the player cards. And oh yeah, he had a little cemetery tacked on the wall.
Yeah, and then
That's
I printed
awesome.
out a bunch of little gravestones to put the names on, and I would bring them
That's
into the
great.
game occasionally. Yeah.
um, I interviewed Todd Putnam from D&D Creative Table Designs, and he does like the big dioramas for Whiz Kids and stuff like that. But he had such an excellent thing for like death saves and or if a character actually is KO'd. Like he set them on like a 10 by 10 tile or 12 by 12, and he had a miniature of the Grim Reaper and the character. And every time that he had to make a death saving throw and he succeeded, he would move the mini one step over, and then he would move death. And then at the end of that, he had like a string, the thread of fate. You know, your character had to make it over there to there in order to actually have the chance to be revived, I guess, so to speak, depending on how mortal the wounds are. Uh,
Right.
but I thought that was such an interesting concept. But yours is great too. I may have to start doing that because I've killed some characters, uh, but I've never completely wiped out a party yet.
Right. I prefer, and I really like when if a character dies, and even if they're savable, when the player is like, no, that's good, that's a perfect spot, because one of her characters died in the game, and it was a heroic save, blocking for somebody basically, and getting them out of the way, and her character actually died, but the good deaths,
Yeah, yeah,
add quite a bit to the story.
some
I mean,
meaning.
they're stupid, but those are good for a laugh occasionally. But at the same time, the good ones add a lot of meaning to the story.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody do a total campaign wipe?
No, no. I take it there's someone here with us who has though.
So after 4 years of running a campaign, and multiple, I ran the campaign as I ran a bunch of goblins that were destroying war. They actually basically destroyed the world, and that campaign lasted for the better part of 2 years. Got them to level 20. They fought all kinds of stuff and destroyed it. So then I decided I would run it from the other side after a set point in the original story with all the good characters trying to stop things and trying to live through what happened.
Yeah.
That went on for another year and a half to 2 years. And then through my folly and a little bit of fun, I dropped a deck of many things into the game.
Oh.
So that they got way too had way too much fun with the deck of many things, and before it was all said and done, she made a wish kind of thing perfectly worded to the perfect time to stop the entire. So everything that had happened, everything that I'd ran for the last 4 years, basically got wished into non-existence at that point.
Bravo.
Yeah, some people were mad at her. Some people were, yeah. But it was funny and it was great, and
Yeah.
it would have been what a character would have done in that situation, knowing the history of the world. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, she wished my world into non-existence.
I've kind of avoided the deck
Yeah.
of many things after seeing some of the escapades online and stuff about it. It can get pretty gnarly pretty quick.
Yeah, I've ran multiple games in this world that I've made up since then, and they all happen with changed timelines since what she did has happened, and they may not even realize that these little short mini games are all just telling parts of a story of how I'm putting it back together on the other side of it, because we've not done a main campaign to address it. So yeah, my world's still there, and there's still all the creepy crawlies, but I'll get you back.
That's awesome. So what do you do for note taking? Use any special apps? I personally like to use Obsidian. Uh, I'm sitting here at my desk now, but my table's over here, and I've got my computer, and I can be sitting there making like a character note or something. I do have some pretty good note takers. My cousin, he's usually the reference person when it comes to the group. And if I
Well, we
throw
have
a,
to look at
yeah, uh, I've been switching over to note cards. Seems to work out pretty good as well. For like little snippets of something, like general things like the character wants to do, their name, where they're at, located, the motives and stuff like that. If they have an armor class, or what type of class are they, So I really enjoy that. Note taking is also pretty fun if you ever have to, like, say, if someone misses a session, you can give them the clip notes of things that goes on, and kind of keeps everyone in the loop.
I always enjoy. I keep notes, but my notes are usually very scattered. I retain a lot more here, and I will just make highlights to help me remember. Like if something specific happens to a character, I'll write character, angry, and that's enough to set off my thought to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I got characters that miss, I like to, and I even like to do it even if nobody misses. I like to have the party tell me before we started playing what happened last session. That way I can get their take on what happened, and I might have missed something, or
Right.
they might have interpreted something completely different, and it may give me even more ideas about how to pursue what we're going after. I've had games completely changed because they were all seeing it one way that I didn't have no clue of. So I like to do that. I keep enough notes to be dangerous. I will usually sit down about once a month and make a keep something solidly wrote down with all my NPCs and the things that have happened. But I'm not the best note taker. Yeah, much like starting some of my games, I write a couple lines, and that's about the extent of my names of places and people I keep track of, but not a lot of other things.
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel like
we
I'm.
have one.
Oh, Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we have one friend like your cousin that takes pretty good notes, and then he'll either fill everybody in that might have missed the last campaign, or either in character or out of character. So
Yeah.
He's filled me in a few times. I forgot a name here or there, and
I'm
luckily he's
guilty as
really good.
well.
Yeah. I mean, that happens. You're running a lot. You got a lot of stuff out in front of you. Stuff
Yeah.
gets forgot occasionally.
Right.
Because my players, I don't know if they do this to you, but they like to just. It's almost like they like to walk into town and go around and say hi to everybody there because they want me to keep making names up for everybody they talk to.
Yeah.
They'll never go back and see them again,
Right.
but they expect me to make a name for everybody that's there. So I forget a few here and there.
Yeah. I created a name on the spot, and I had like name generators in front of me and everything, and I had a little bit too much liquid courage at the time, and I spouted the name Harfelbarg, and for like the next 30 minutes, I was the amusement of their beratement, talking about where on earth did that come from. I said, you can't make that up. That's just. So it was just someone at a bar or at a tavern, and they were crying over their significant other. And, not really an important story piece or anything, but they took a liking to Harfelberg, and he's just a normal guy, kind of like in
Carl,
Carl.
Carl.
But it's goes back to like some of the funny names that I tend to associate with some NPCs, whether they're important or not. They're there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unless I've got tired of them wandering around town, and then you might end up with Bob 1 and Bob 2 and Bob 3, because I need to get it across to them that we're not taking a roll call in town.
Yeah.
We're just not. There's no reason for it. Yeah. But it's a back and forth play. They just like to annoy me, and I like to annoy them back.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's the thing. We're all there to have fun, sit around the table, collective storytelling,
Mhm.
and everyone enjoying a laugh, and good food, and just having a good time being together. I think is probably the best part about this game. Just gives us all an excuse
Yes.
to get together.
I agree 100%.
And speaking of our party, that's kind of like where the name of our store came from, because we've got I guess it's the man cave in our house, and that's where we've always played for years and years. And one of our friends just started calling his man cave Smith's Dungeon. So then one year for Christmas, I had him a little rug that said, um, "Welcome to Smith's Dungeon. Roll for initiative."
That's
And
awesome.
then that's just kind of where, and we're like, that's the name of our store. That's what we are.
I think it's
So,
very fitting. I think it's great. To the point,
Yeah.
except we,
No, no.
some people don't understand what our store is. We'll just say that.
Those awkward phone calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I,
yeah.
I can I can imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah.
You never know. Some people might find something fun to roleplay. You never know.
Not that kind of role playing store.
So, do you all have a favorite session that you all have ever had? Like one that's really stood out from uh, all the rest? Something like really amazing happened, or like just as well as I do, the dice always tell the best story. Uh, have you ever had like one that everyone just constantly references, and you know that sort of thing? I guess.
Yeah. So I had in one of those road campaigns, um, they was everybody references back to that one because it was the most destructive and most hilarious game we've had for some time.
That's not the Uzi Bushi.
No, it's not the Oozy Boozy.
Ooja
You can
booja.
tell that story. Yeah. But it it ended up tearing up. They blew half a city block up, and yeah, y'all did that. They had found an illegal substance, and one of the characters had went to go do something with said illegal substance, while the other character who had a familiar sent his familiar to disrupt that. Well, the familiar got into and it was like watching the old National Lampoons when the squirrel got in the tree.
Tripping weasel.
Yes, the tripping weasel.
Oh, that's
So that
amazing.
was an entire session of pure just craziness, people laughing so hard they hurt, and everybody just, we refer back to that all the time because it was about 4 hours of us just cutting up, and it was just a running joke with very little dice rolling, and when there was, it just made it worse. It just made it way worse. So yeah, we refer back to that one
Yeah,
very, very fondly. Anything with the rogue campaigns have been our go-to laugh. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
I get told every time we're playing not to ooju booju
Not the
something.
Uju Buju. That sounds.
Yeah, I don't know if it was from Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, or what, but there was one movie where Jim Carrey was like with an animal. He's like ooju booju. I don't know if you remember that, but I was a dragonborn, and we come up on this little lizard creature, a reptilian of some sort. I don't even remember. But because I was a dragonborn, I thought I could talk to it and woo it, and got in its face and went ooju booju, and it acid sprays my face and basically melts me to the ground and kills my character instantly.
That is amazing. I know exactly what scene you're talking about too.
So
Oh, I
I'm
love
not allowed to ooju booju characters anymore.
it. It's
Yeah,
whenever
we'll have to party.
he's trying to get something to come to an elephant is what it is. When he's trying to get the
So it
elephant,
was.
yeah, to come over and sit on the jeep. I believe is what it was.
Yeah,
He's
it's
just
been a long time since I've seen it, but that was just I don't know. Always loved Jim Carrey movies, and that was just one of the things that always stuck out in my head. And I thought, oh, I'm just gonna be silly and try to be cute with this little reptile. And I think I was a was I a barbarian?
Her character picked it up and held it up to her face and did that.
And then
just
I died, and then
A couple other party members
I
died,
was one of
and
the strongest ones. So
yeah,
yeah, there were
yeah.
several people that died because I ooju booju the reptile.
it was a disaster
So
at
in
its
other words, you
scariest.
got Jurassic Parked, right? Just the thing
Yeah. Oh yeah,
spits it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Acid sprayed right in the face,
That's
melted me
awesome.
down.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Went to the graveyard.
When let's see, I'm trying to think. Because usually mine are just so absurd when things happen that I don't plan for. It's just usually happens whenever they're trying to start a fight with somebody, or like for right now, we have a homebrew campaign where they are playing goblins. Also play a PC slash NPC goblin as well to kind of help push the story along and stuff like that. But they do so much like treacherous stuff. Like, see, you see a beggar on the street, what do? You want to rob him, take his money, might
Oh
kill
yeah.
him, might chew on his arm. I don't know, might bite his face, or something like
Yep.
that. Yeah,
The oddest thing would be if they walked by and did nothing.
right. I'd be more
Yeah,
concerned if they did that.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But there was a particular time. It's funny you mentioned Yu-Gi-Oh earlier, and it was my first time DMing, not really knowing a lot about the game other than a little bit too much liquid courage at the time. Again, and I had given a good friend of mine a feat that he can roll a d20, and depending on the roll, he can pretty much He was known as the Wizard Lucidity, and he was just capable of doing these wild and magical things. He was like a wizard, but he was pretty much full of crap. It either happened or it didn't. So I intended for the first game to be like a one shot, introduce everyone into the campaign, and at the pivotal moment when I go to kind of put an end to everything, to start something new or let them pick something else. He rolls a nat 20 on that roll, and it was a dragon that came into the tavern and clasped down on the dwarven captain. And instead of them running like I thought they would do, no, this guy rolls a nat 20 on that feat, and he summons the Blue Eyes White Dragon to come in and scare off the other dragon. And it was just so absurd. Like I had like I think I'm gonna say the most I've ever had at my table is 12, but I think there was 8 of us, and we all just fell apart laughing just because it was just so absurd. That I'll probably remember that one more than anything. Maybe because of my first time DMing, and learned a lot since then.
Yeah, the dice will always go against you.
Yeah,
Never fails. Never fails.
yeah. I got to get me a dice gel because I've I've got a few here. I need to go in there. They've let me down more than once.
I've had to stop playing with some dice because I was killing party with it way too frequently. It was rolling way too good, and I like to roll where people can see. And I had to stop using them when I was running because I use them when I play. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but not when I'm running.
Not when you're running.
Yeah, not when I run. Don't want to kill them that quick.
Now,
And so
go ahead.
I was just going to say he's thinking about starting a D&D campaign at the store too sometime after the first of the year, which is like 2 days, but we'll need a little bit more than 2 days to get things rolling.
Yeah.
And we'll say the early part of next year. So
Yeah, we're gonna try to get some games going. I've got some people that want to come in and run something. Because my home game has been so messed up, I may end up playing down there and just adding people in that want to come in occasionally to play. And,
Yeah.
Then we're going to start off with other games too. It's going to be Magic, of course, but then we're going to do board games. We got all those cool board games. I'm not sure people know exactly what they are. So the best thing is take them down and we'll get some people in and play them. See what they're all about.
Absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
do you all have any other plans for your store going forward? I know you mentioned the magic and the wanting to do some D&D sessions. Do you all see yourself doing anything else?
That's the starting point right now. Doing what we can with the space that we got. Getting people in to play, try to create a community around so that if we can't always play, we can at least have a large enough group of people around that we know that everybody can find the game when they need a game or want a game, and DMs can find players can find DMs, and just yeah. So hopefully that people around can always find the game.
Yeah.
One way or another, there'll always be a game around.
That would be nice to play a PC again. I'm the forever DM of my group, so it would be nice to dabble with the literally 100 or so characters that I have thought up in my head to try out.
Mm-hmm. I feel your pain.
Yeah. But
I've put a lot of money in the games so far, and those are usually my best NPCs because I've thought them completely out
right.
for game purposes.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for being here. This has been an absolute joy to have you all here and be on here with me. Tell us where to find you. What's your social media handles? Where's your store located?
okay. So our store is located at 209 Robert and Mary Drive in Grayson, Kentucky. It's a small shopping plaza. We're in Unit 1. It's right across the road from the Grayson Police Department and Fire Department, right on the corner. We do have a Facebook. You can just search Smith Dungeon and you will see our logo, which is a dragon with what looks like a D20, but I don't think a lot of people realize instead of it being a 2-0, it's actually an SD inside of it. But anyways, dragon with a D20. That's our logo. We post stuff on there every time we get new inventory in. We will start posting these events as we are able to host them. We do have a website, www.smithdungeon.com. Right now, it is still being built. You can go to it. You can read a little about our store, stuff we carry, things like that. However, we do not have merchandise for sale on there yet. We're just strictly brick and mortar at this time. But we will probably, again, we've only been open for 4 weeks and we've got a lot of different uh, media and marketing things going on and talking to a lot of different people about things. Um, but yeah, absolutely. By the way, if you don't care, I'm going to give a shout out about that
Go for it.
website of ours. It was built and designed for us by Emery Soft, um, which is actually my nephew-in-law Charles Young built it, and it's just amazing what he's done with the website so far, and I can't wait to see what else he does with it. um, but that is also a local small business here in Grayson. um, so yeah, we got lots of people working with us, lots of marketing ideas and things like that, but for now it's best to either find us at a brick and mortar store, give us a call 606-316-5578, or you can check us out on Facebook.
Sounds terrific. And I can personally vouch, your old store has so much. I mean, there's so much there uh, to fit anyone who's wanting to join in to find a new hobby or find something that they love. Uh, your shop is the place to go. But
Thank
thank
you.
yeah, thank you all for pursuing your dreams. Makes me happy. Glad that you all are uh, doing this thing, and look forward to doing this again in the future.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah,
Can't
no
wait to
problem.
see you again.
Yeah. Let's see here.